shot for goal, a shot for goal, a shot for goal, shot for goal! Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where on earth you are tuning in from. My name's Stefan Rapazzo, and you're joining me and my co-host Noah Brinkworth here on Shot for Goal to round up what's happening this week in Ultimate. And there is a whole lot of Ultimate happening right now. The pinnacle of the sport going down in China, and a miniature version of it over in the UK and Scotland. Noah, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Steph. I'll be honest, I feel a little frazzled waking up. I'm sure, like many Ultimate fans, waking up early in the morning or staying up super, super late to watch these games. The China time zone is not ideal for European viewer. I don't think it's much better for you, Steph,
No.
in North America. But the games have been pretty electric. I think we were lacking a close game on the Tuesday set of games, but the Wednesday set of games really delivered. We had a couple really interesting and exciting matchups today.
Yeah, we'll start with our World Games coverage here, and you're right. The first this reminds me of 2019 when the Raptors won the NBA championship, and I was living in Europe. I was in Amsterdam, but 3 months of my sleep cycle, 2 months of my sleep cycle disrupted. This will only be a week, but it will be a week of totally disrupted sleep. The first games on this side of the world are 10 p.m. and the last game starting at 5 a.m. So I have been staying up. I have missed a tiny bit of action, but I've been caught up as well as possible. I think I've only not watched one full game at this stage. So yeah, we are there. I guess let's start at the top. And we had a couple of clashes of the top this week, last night, with two teams that were 1-0 facing each other in either pool. And so we'll start in Pool A. The game of the tournament thus far, Noah, Germany, USA, that was an absolute corker. It had every twist and turn you could imagine, lead changes, no goal differential of more than 2, I don't believe. I'm going back and checking right now as I talk you over. And great games by so many. I thought Levka Volchak was awesome. Not a surprise at all. I thought Konrad Schlur was awesome. There was some heroics, of course, by Dylan Freechild. It was a universe point game, 13-12 victory for the United States. A universe point on defense. A couple of initial thoughts there, Noah, but what are your initial thoughts from that game?
I mean, Germany was looking a little bit sloppy in that game against China, so I don't think people were expecting it. But perhaps a nice matchup for the Germans. It's the second time in a row where they really challenged them. They obviously beat them in 2022. This year, people were thinking they had a little bit of a weaker roster, notably missing Anna Gerner and other rising players like Jonathan Maehr Bottling. We expected to be on the team, but weren't. But wow, did they deliver? I think there are a couple players who just really, really shine in the format. The engine of Levka Volchak, the kind of smart heads-up poaching Ds from Konrad Schlur, and the throwing of Nico Müller all on display. And then a player that we didn't feature last time round, who I think has made an excellent impression, is Lisa Schutz. She is throwing her body around everywhere. She is lightning fast. I really think that pretty much every piece of that O-line is working really, really nicely together. And it's interesting to see Germany use timeouts and, be willing to put on their O-line multiple points in a row, really trusting that system. It could have been a game that we would say, Steph, well, it was close, but I never really thought the US was going to lose. But then suddenly it really did. We got right to the end. Dylan Freechild scoops a high release backhand over the top. Konrad Schlur peels off and poaches on the break side. Suddenly, it's the Germans go a point in the lead, and they can't quite convert at 12-11 to go 13-11 for the break. Universe, and Germans have the disc, and Well, Free Child makes up for his earlier mistake.
Yeah, a wicked poach off from Freechild on the second throw of the sequence. Came off his player in the dump space and, 2 steps up line to take it away. Full intercept layout. I think he opened up his eye on the play. Gave himself some claret for the cameras, but it was a super tough play. That was like a big time player making big time plays. Threw the assist immediately, no other passes in the sequence. It was a really short universe point, 2 pass sequence for the Germans, the intercept, layout intercept, and then the assist. I think it was Don Colton who got the final goal there.
Yeah.
But wow. I mean, that game really did have it all. Stats wise. Okay, first of all, Paul Herkins playing on the D line, so not collecting as many stats as he did against China. He didn't get all those Ds he did, but again, 2 goals and an assist, playing mostly defensive points. I thought he was awesome. You mentioned Conrad Schlor, but stat line there: 5 assists and a block and only 1 turn. Charlotte Schall only 1 assist, but she was awesome. That layout she had at 10-10 to keep the play alive. That went to Volchak. They were still playing from behind at that stage. That was before their late break. And then on the other side of the ball, Freechild 1-3-1. He had 2 turnovers, but obviously made up for it. Cammy Groom, 3 goals, was exceptional. I thought Henrying played big in the middle portion of that game, kind of put the USA on his back and made sure they were never going to fall down too far. He started towering and playing very, very big. I really liked the way Henry Ing played. He did have a bit of mean mugging going on, like he wasn't about to put up with any crap anymore for a good portion of the center of that game. But yeah, you could really go down top to bottom of those rosters. There were no poor performances. I didn't think nobody was letting their team down. Everybody was grinding to get a win in a game where, you're right, the Germans stepped up. Against China, they were good, but everybody was like, yeah, but that was China. They won't be able to do that against the United States. And well, they did. They came 1 point short, but they are definitely showing the world that they may well be the team to jump back over the bracket after the crossovers and find their way back in a final.
Yeah, I think that the Germans have great opportunity to have a excellent semi-final. I think that if they win, though, they will be running into the Canadians, who kind of get a little bit of a rest tomorrow. So the way the games have ran out, the Canadians and the US are basically through, and the Australians and China are basically out. And then it's on one side of the bracket, the Germans versus the Japanese game to go, and on the other side, it's France versus Colombia game to go. And we'll talk about how we think those are going to come out, but Germany are definitely going to have a really tough task against Japan as well.
Yeah, no, nothing set in stone for Germany. They look the goods, but Japan did put away China with relative ease, let's say, as well. They didn't give themselves any trouble. Nothing, no crazy outcomes there. But let's still talk about USA and Germany here, just to get to the end. Be comprehensive with each team here. But USA's first game was against Japan. That was the opening game of the tournament. They won 13-8, so comprehensive win there. That was a game where Rafi Hayes was absolutely on fire. 7 total positive stats. He did have 2 turnovers. I recognize this because I've got him in fantasy. Because those turnovers sink you quite a bit. We won't talk too much more about my fantasy because I got a sinking ship. No, I am not in a good state of affairs, and we'll
call someone out, Steph. Who's giving you big negatives right now?
Well, I've got the invisibility factor of Kat Phillips, who's just not turned up to play the way she has done for so many World Games iterations, so many Australian Firetails iterations. She has been the rock for Australia for so long. It's been her and Cupcake, Tom Tulett for the last cycle that were, the top contributors, and she's really like last game she had zero stats, and to be very honest was just blanketed. I thought Camille Blanc took her out of the game in the first 3 or 4 points, which is so impressive for the young French defender. But she was shutting down Cat, and then Cat, they switched up defensive assignments as well, but Cat could never get going against France. And then the same thing against Colombia, where she was not even necessarily getting the top defensive assignments every time. We'll talk a bit more about that in that game, but yeah, Cat has been a tough one. Alex Latamatos, I took 2 Aussies, and then today I had Sasha Potsokolski. He threw a Callahan, so I got my picks. I felt really good about them going in, but that's the thing with this tournament. There's so many stars. Somebody's got to lose, and when you lose, the stats go the other way normally, unless it is a universe point game. So there's me calling out who's not working for me.
Like, to go back to USA, Germany real quick, I think like there's been some players that have stood out in different ways who have had more or less impact than we thought. I thought particularly in the first game, Grant Linsley was a lot better than I expected. He looks fit the whole way through the tournament. I think that what I'm seeing as a pattern through a lot of the games is that players who are like built and bringing a lot of muscle around with them on the field are like struggling deep into the game or deep into long points because it is so hot and humid out there. And then these players who are kind of built a little bit more trim and a bit more like a runner build have more energy throughout the point. He was really good yesterday. I think Freechild has been good, if a little bit turnover prone in both games. I was impressed by Chastain in the first game. She had a much weaker game against Germany today. Cami Groom, as you said, has been really good as a receiver, and I've been really impressed with Dawn Colton. I was thought that perhaps she might be kind of like the 6th or 7th woman coming in as one of the youngest players. She's actually been a really good threat on and off the disc. I thought she might end up just as a pure receiver, but in the midfield spaces, she's making great plays. And talking about great plays, Michael Ing is doing crazy things on defense. He's picked up so many blocks so far. My question to you, based on these first 2 rounds, Steph, is do you think, based on what's happened with the 2 games, the US Japan and the US Germany team, do you think the US are more likely to win at the end of the tournament or less likely to win based on what you've seen?
I mean, iron sharpens iron. I think the U.S. want the test rounds. They just proved they can win a tight game. They've proved that they can get ahead and use their pedigree to blow open some leads when required. I think that until they are scathed, the deeper they go into this tournament without getting knocked off, I think the stronger they are, the more likely they are to win this. Canada looks great. They really do. I still question some of their foul calling, but it's not horrendous. It's not unspirited. I just don't think it is perfect articulation of the rules in some situations.
I found that, like, I think that Canada more than other teams, I've watched some of their like calls back, and I'm like, oh, I kind of do think there is a foul there. Like, I kind of can see the Miliko Samar strip and the Thomas Edmonds foul, but it does feel like Canada go into games to rile up the opposition and make it a scrappy, cally game,
exactly,
which I don't like to see at all.
The way they call the fouls is this like arms thrown up in the air, like, oh my God, I can't believe you would do that. Like, it's very... That is kind of, I saw it out of BDS today. I saw it out of Malcolm Bryson on a call yesterday. Yesterday, Canada beat who? Colombia? Yes. That was against Jorge. No, it was Ramirez. But anyways, he was like reiterating with the swipe, and I was like, that's not the way it looks on the replay, and that's not the way it looked live. But they just emphatically make these calls, and where I don't think they're like outlandish to be making them, I feel this urgency and the manner they're making them kind of makes you be like, come on, man, that's still not the greatest way to express your belief of what happened out there. So
I think also when playing the Colombians in particular, if you stop the play, you gain advantage. That's the case. So I think that you see teams like in those games, like being a little bit more aggressive, bumping on catches because you're kind of good either way. Like either you get away with it and they don't call it, or they call it and they slow down their tempo. And yeah, I think the Colombia's had a real up and down tournament. I think they look so much better when they're compact and they're fast and they're playing like side stack and like their opening players to actually just like slam their offense straight into the side stack and just make a big clump. When they're playing out of like vert, playing in big spaces, sending big undercuts, the Canadians are really shutting them down. And there was also some really good mail matching help in the underspace because they knew that if a deep shot went up to one of their men who was kind of left free, that they had big mail matching receivers who could go run down and get the block. So like the method of getting past Colombia has kind of been laid down. I think that
hang on, we're going in circles here. I do like the questions, but let's stick with Pool A.
Yeah,
we've discussed USA and Germany. If you have more to say about them, you've asked the question of whether I think USA is there. I'll pose the same question to you about Germany after that universe point game, despite their lackluster opening game against Germany. That might be unfair, lackluster, but not their strongest performance against China. Do they now look like the second best team in the tournament over on Pool A, while the powers in the Pool of Death keep punching each other in the face?
I don't think they look as good as Canada, but I think they carry a 1 or 2 point projected advantage into that all important quarterfinal that they've got tomorrow against Japan. Japan, like, I think they obviously struggle with the deep matchup, but like if they're throwing the ball, it's fine because they can throw it real zippy and just hope that their player can catch up. And there were some great shots from Corona in the opening game against the US. But I love the engine of the top German players. I love the height of the top German players. It feels like they're got a bit more clutch factor. It feels like they're really playing to win, not just to play good points, and that they, as the point progresses and when it gets sloppy, there's many turns in the point. I really like Germany. So yeah, are they the second best team in the tournament? No, I think you have to give that to Canada, the way they've made both Australia and Colombia now look a little silly. But I do think that they are in pole position to make it to the semi-finals, Steph, and potentially bring home a medal for a European team. Yeah, and that's not the only European team that could do that.
No, the French are not done yet either. And you said quarterfinal. We'll call it a pre-semi because the other two semi spots are already fixed with USA and Canada, as you said. Huge games tomorrow. China, let's touch on the Chinese team. I mean, they've lost 2 games. They're the host team. They lost 13-8 today. They're getting some production. Xin Li, the number 59 shirt, 3 goals and an assist in the losing cause today. And then yesterday against the Germans, Chen Mao, the number 20 shirt, 5 assists and a block, despite a couple of turnovers going with it. While Xin Li in that game, who had a good day today, went blank. So they're showing some inconsistency of contributors. Obviously, this is their first time in a tournament like this, their first time playing mixed ultimate with their absolute top stars. I think that it's still fair to say they're having a good showing. Like, I don't think anybody expected them to lose 13 to threes. I did kind of hope that they would get the tens on the board, which they haven't been able to do, but they're fighting. Nothing's coming easy against the Chinese.
No, like they've done better than I expected so far, and I haven't watched a lot of the games with China competing, but from little clips I've seen, they look like a well-drilled team who, if they came into like a good club competition, or if they had that caliber of players in a normal mixed national team tournament, they would do very, very, very well. I think that they would beat most of the top European clubs. I think they would have a decent showing if they went to like USAU mixed club nationals. There's some lots of talent in there. The players look really fit as well, and like can get free, have got the throws. So I think that Chinese is a young ultimate nation, and maybe it won't be the last time they make it back into these world games. They've obviously got a big playing population. I've loved to see how they consistently are entering all of the teams they can into WIFTF events. So maybe not 4 years down the line, but maybe 8 to 12 years down the line, they're going to be a team that we see again at the World Games.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is the very beginning for Chinese Ultimate. I think hosting the World Games is a blessing for them to kind of have to
Absolutely
go all in on this team, and they had to send all the teams to WUC in Australia in order to secure the bid. They've done it. They've gone and got some external coaching, invested in the internal program, and I think this experience is going to go so far for Chinese Ultimate, and I would say look out for them. And I think it could be as quick as 4 years, with they're maybe not winning the World Games, but being in that semis conversation, and just adding to the parity that already exists. Where this is. We've been saying it for the month leading up, like this is anybody's tournament. Yes, the US are still the favorites, but anyone can take this. I've been saying 2 through 7 is a coin flip, dropping down the stairs, see how they land, and that is proving very legitimate. And I think China will be part of that. Whether that goes 2 through 8 or hopefully 1 through 8, and the whole world's caught up to the USA and they're not clear-cut favorites by that time. But that is the expectation. Japan, Germany, last thoughts on that for tomorrow, the big pre-semi, we'll call it. You've touched on it. I think I like Germany based on common opponent. They've done better against the US, of course, but it will be a great clash of styles. The wind out there is something. You talk about the heat, but they keep saying upwind, downwind. There are no flags in that stadium. I keep looking for flags to try and look and see exactly how much wind there is. Like, commentators are mentioning it with significance, like upwind, downwind points. It doesn't seem terribly affected, but I do think if it's a stiller day, the Japanese, will have a better chances in the wind. As soon as stuff floats, as soon as stuff hangs up, I think the German size will be even more of a factor.
I get the logic there, but as there were, I was remembering those games from the Gold Coast where Japan's like zippy throws were like actually working very effectively. There was the US Japan game, if you remember, and those no matching players on Japan were like lasering unders, like big
and
game unders.
The Japanese Australia semifinal as well in the open division, I remember very well, and the Japanese handled the wind much better then.
But I don't think that the Gold Coast level wind is really on the cards. I think the gusty, floaty ones that leave the disc in the air, you're right, Steph. If we have that again, we have on the windier end of the conditions we've been seeing so far, I do think it plays out in the Germans' advantage.
Now, I'm going way back here, but to 2012, when Japan on home turf in very windy conditions played both Australia and Sweden. Sebastian Sporong, Nicholas Teller to Sorong. Or Sporong. Anyways, I'm sorry if I've got it wrong by one letter. But that was just, again, the Swedes just hung it up and took it down. Now, that was open. That was more than a dozen years ago. So, yeah. I also think the female matching players on Germany are stronger all around, specifically athleticism and defensive prowess, than what the Japanese FMPs are able to do, as well as size, besides maybe Levka Volchak.
I think I just think that the O line of both is gonna be like, I think the O line FMPs on both sides of both teams are gonna have joy, because you know that I think that like the size of the Germans for the offense, the Levka, Lisa, Charlotte, and Nikki, that's really hard to stop. But then the German FMPs on the D line, like Avamula and Erdmann, are like this build that when I found recently when I was playing mixed and playing against the Japanese, like I am not built to mark Japanese cutters. I was marking a guy who's 5'5". He was getting under me. He was running away from me. And sometimes, like if you let them play on their terms, like they can just run you in circles.
They're just squirreling around, and
Yeah.
Ava Muller, as great as she is, maybe her on-toe agility is going to be tested as well as it ever has been against these Japanese nimble, small space phone booth cutters. So, all right, well, I think that's good for Pool A. Let's move into Pool B. We'll take a break later. We're not ready for the break yet here. Yeah, let's move straight into Pool B because we've touched on it, Noah.
We have.
Canada at the top, as mentioned, 1-1 for both Colombia and France. They will play that pre-semi tomorrow, and it's been Australia, and somebody's got to be at the bottom of this pool, and boy, have they been stinkers. And you hate to say it, I love the Australians, the Crocs, as they have been, silver medalists for 3 times over. They are just not turning up to play. Yeah, you start from the top. Cat Phillips not showing up. Alex Gann had a horrible first game, and you hoped for that rebound against Colombia, and he was safe against Colombia, but did not contribute to the positive side. All this said, how many turnovers did Colombia have in that game, Noah?
In the Colombia versus Australia game?
Yes, today.
I can't tell you.
Well, there's not many to count. It's 1, and that's on both sides of the ball, O-line,
Really?
D-line. So Australia only had 6 turnovers in the game, and they got punished for all of them.
Well, I think it tells you a story about the Australian defense, which I just think it was a completely incorrect coaching call. So there was two kind of looks that they were doing, and I thought both of them were not great ideas. First, they were putting male matching players on Valeria and having a female matching player Mark Cantamil or one of the other Colombian MMPs, and I just don't think it was necessary. I think they got a lot of joy out of it. I think a lot of the time Valeria got free anyway, and what they were gaining on taking Valeria slightly more out the game, not locking her out the game, they were losing on the male matching players. We saw Molly Wedge do a really, really fantastic job of taking Valeria out the game. She wasn't as dominant as she has been in other World Games cycles and games and running the show in the backfield quite so much. I think the disc has been spread around, and I think that was a part of the Canadians' game plan and has really worked out for them in their opening game. But, it's not the kind of dominator, Cartagena to Valeria Cardenas show that we kind of expected based off the Colombian women's team. But and then there was so I don't think that was very effective for the Australians. Another thing they were doing was just a lot of loose poaching, and I don't know what they were trying to achieve. I think sometimes you need to employ that poaching when there's areas of the game where there's just not an area of the game you can shut down. But I think that you can take a lot of resources away from stopping deep shots against Colombia to really stop unders, to really try and push resets to be really far away and disconnect throwers and stack, but then perhaps front players so that there's a risky option deep. And
Yeah.
what it felt like a lot of the time was just like there was enough space between the Australian defenders and Colombian cutters that like players could just carve up the field with nice dribble moves, because every time they look up, there's a player just marginally free, and if they throw it with enough zip, they can hit them and get it back in time. So yeah, I don't think it was a great. I think that the Australian coaches kind of overthought the game, to be honest, on
Yeah.
the defensive end of the ball.
I think you're spot on there. Anna Ragaki, Yui, and Stephen Wright, the coaches there. That I got crap from some of the Australian MMPs while in London about using the term lumbering, big lumbering females. I think I'm going to use that again now for the whole team. I think selection wise, you see this selection and the top end, as much as they're not really performing, you kind of understand. Legan, Ladamatos, McGuckin, Andrews, Cat Phillips, Prentice. I think, okay, I'll even stop there. The new players they've added, they added some youth, but they just went for these big, broad-shouldered players across the board. They went for height, like losing Sally Yu was not good for them. Bringing in George Egan Griffiths, who fits that mold. Sally Yu was like their only light-footed, speed-based player. And they put in George Egan Griffiths, fits the mold, another big, broad-shouldered, good in the air, takes up space, boxes out well, but are you going to be able to cover? Are you going to be able to play two ways against these speedy players? And they're proving that they're unable. And so while I said it, when people confront you there, but you gotta, okay, lumbering's not the best word, but that's what I'm seeing now. Actually, is they're not able to show the agility to play defense against the speed you're seeing across the board, particularly against the Colombians who they played. The Canadians are not, not a small team, but those players are. The tall players are still fleet-footed and fast, and I don't think you see it there. I look at Australia, and you're like, where is Liam Grimmond? A lean, long-bodied flyer. Where is the likes of Tex, who's been there? Tex is getting old. You miss Cupcake so much, but. These are all the things woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's they are back to the drawing board. You look at Australia's play over their, 05 second place, 09 third, 2013 second place, 2017 fourth, 2020 second, 2022 second again, and this year, well, they're definitely, they'll be playing for fifth, but the way they're playing, I don't think fifth is a likely outcome unless a whole lot changes in their next two games.
Yeah, like I think some of what you're saying about the team there in terms of it goes back to what I was saying earlier about those like bigger bodies struggling, like the stronger, powerful players, I think struggling in the long points in the heat.
And you've
But it
seen them
reminds
on
me,
their haunches. You've seen
yeah,
them on their on transitions, turned over. Like I heard the commentator Brendan say, looks like they're not trying out there, or I think it was Charlie. It doesn't even look like they're trying on the turn in a point or two, and you could, spot them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that were just not moving after turnover. Sorry to cut you off there.
no, it's all good. And like, you know what it reminds me, Steph? It reminds me a little bit of Canada 2022, and I thought there were players there that came in with a little bit of builds more based on power than speed and cardio, and just like getting a little bit ran around by the smaller, more agile players, and it will go down as a disappointing tournament. And I think they're missing new blood, Steph. I think that a player like Mark Wee, who I think was one of the best defenders for the Dingoes,
Wee as well.
he was, plays big and is tall, but has more of that skinny build, like you were saying, would be another great player. But I think a player they're clearly missing is Cupcake, a player to centralize the offense, to be an option. But he also comes up with the crazy play, like he finds hammers that get them out of trouble. There were some like insane hammers he had in the last 2022 World Games came out of nowhere. Remember in that opening game at WOC 2024, he goes and gets the Callahan to turn the tide of the game, and having that player who has so much winning experience, so much experience at the very top of the game, and is willing to bear the responsibility of driving the offense. Like, it's a shame that Cupcake isn't out there, and I think that he has, based on his 2024 play, he has the talent. He is not off. Like, maybe he wasn't the player he was 3-4 years ago, but would he make this team better? I think absolutely, Seth.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go to the top of the side B. We have talked about Canada because they've been great. Let's talk a bit more specifically about the Canadians. I mentioned maybe one small slight is I've not loved their call making, but I have loved their playmaking. They have been delightful to watch right from the get-go. Today, they took it to France. They only won by 2, but I thought they outplayed them by more than that. Thomas Edmonds is an engine for that team that is, a great addition. You see, he lives in Washington, plays in Washington. He's got dual citizenship, but great injection based on what they had last cycle. I think the 3 FMPs that are standing out the most for me is Anushka Baudry, BDS, and Sarah Jacobson. All of them have been incredible. They're playing on the same line mostly, which seems like an O-line, which is interesting. Sarah Jacobson's there as the defensive player of the year, but doing an incredible job. Chata has been whipping out full field hucks all over the shop. Quinn Snyder's been good. Mika Kurahashi had a huge block. And I haven't said Malik Auger-Sumer or Auger Semmer is he's been known there, and we won't get into some of the pronunciations. But Canada is looking like a polished team. All that, they've got their veteran in Mark Lloyd still able to contribute. Molly Wedge gets a Callahan in that game. They are moving from strength to strength. I would love to see them kind of dial down the early game aggro on calling, and with that, I think they really are a team that stands to push for a gold medal and certainly to book a spot in the final.
Yeah, I think that they have clearly been very, very strong. I think their pool plays, their starting, how they start the offense has been so much stronger than last year. It was predictable and vertical in a way that just allowed teams to to poach onto them last year. They're creating bigger and better spaces for themselves this year. Players you've mentioned, a lot of the offensive players been good. I think Malcolm Bryson, especially in the first game, had a fantastic game. I think that almost literally all the players had a great game. I shout out to Mika Kurahashi getting the block on Sasha Potsakolski in the end zone. That was an awesome play. I think the only weak links, and it's harsh to say this, but I think if Canada could take the vets, the D-line vets, and replace them for springier, younger players, and I'm thinking Mark Lloyd, I'm thinking Lauren Kimura, who I've seen as far. Like, Lloyd scored some goals, but hasn't done too much. Put up a nice, huge bid in the previous game, but didn't quite get there. Kimura, I remember getting completely out of jail, throwing that janky backhand up the line that Cantora almost blocks and somehow flies to the back of the end zone for the goal. But and spirit concerns aside, would you not rather a Podnar in situations like this, a Cole Mott on the female matching side, just someone to be another really elite matchup defender who could take a player out the game?
I hear you there, but I do think that that veteran savvy goes a really long way in the huddles. The eye to eye, the on the sideline, having those chats, players that have been there before. I think you look at the Australian lineup in comparison where they've got so many returners, so many they're dragging along. Same with Japan on the male matching side. I see Canada, like, they have got to have the most revamped roster from 2022 till this year's edition. Mark Lloyd didn't play 2022, but obviously has the WGs prior. I hear you. I don't think you're out of line, but I don't think they're playing so poorly that they should. You got to consider the alternative because of that veteran savvy and leadership they bring. So
I think that they haven't been tested in a close game yet. These players might show up in a close game where the experience counts for more. It's they're yet to be tested, even though they've come
I'm here
against very
batting for the
difficult
old.
teams.
You're here batting for the young, Noah. So no
I am indeed.
surprise. No surprise. But okay, so Canada looking good. That Germany, whether it's Japan, Canada, Germany, Canada, I see it as being Germany, Canada. I think that's going to be an incredible semi on one side of the draw. You go down now to
looking at the
Colombia.
goal difference. It wouldn't be possible
France.
that Canada wouldn't finish top there, correct?
No, now that they've won two, who do they have left? Australia.
Because
No,
if they
France.
lost against
No.
Australia, then they would end up with 2 wins, and as would the French or the Colombians, but
And
they
they'll
have the
already
head-to-head
have
win.
head-to-head.
So
Canada
locked
has
in
locked up
top.
the division.
So if you're Canada,
top
Steph,
and
who do you
bottom,
want?
one and four of the division are locked up. If I'm Canada, I want Japan. If I'm Canada,
Totally
I'm
agree.
expecting Germany. But I think Canada matches up better against Japan. Okay, so
You can almost
Colombia-
replay the Colombia game plan, right? Like the male matching deep shots, where like I just remember that one with between Canada and Colombia, where like Alba's running circles around like Quinn Snyder and just can't get anywhere near on the beard.
In the Discord, the Ulti-World Discord, a lot of people calling out dude ball on Canada in that opening game. I was like, they're playing Colombia, who is like renowned for the strength of their FMPs. Like, please give them some credit for having a game plan to play around the strength of the opposition. Yes, it has. Sometimes it goes by gender when you make a good game plan, a sensible game plan. And I thought that's all that the Canadians did. I thought their game against France today, they used a very whole team strategy to get past the French. And let's talk about the French. We got French and Colombians to really touch on here. France really impressed everybody coming out the gates and beating Australia. Had we known Australia was going to be as poor, we may have been slightly less impressed, but still put it up against Canada. Lost by 2, never out of it. I think the biggest concerns for France are their injuries right now. 2 in that last game. Sullivan Roble is out. It seems like ACL was being spoken about even on stream, and it seems to have been confirmed in the post-game chats. That is a huge hit for them. He's not like their shiningest star, but probably the best defender. He gets the top defensive assignments on the other team, the top MMP defensive assignments. So missing him is going to be huge. Tifan Lachi has gone down with a concussion. So that concussion protocol could mean she's back. She will likely miss a game. I think depending on the severity of the concussion, that's usually 3 days is the minimum. But I'm not exactly sure. I'm no doctor, and you can't quote me on this kind of stuff. But, after Eva Bourneau's out, if they are reduced to 12, their chances of beating Colombia are even tighter. I thought, Colombia was so good today that I thought they would have the advantage against France. If it's Colombia against France, when we're playing 14-12, that advantage gets even bigger. But you talk about the upside of the French, and there's lots to talk about. I thought, you talk about veterans. I thought Gaël Ancelin has been great, whereby Sasha Podsakolski has been... the 2 young MMP stars in Stanguenek and Bonnet have been lights out. But the real MMP star for the French has been Paul Benvenien. In the last game, he had 2 goals, 3 assists, and 2 blocks. Yes, 3 turnovers, but that doesn't matter when you're getting it like that. Again, you talk stats, and you wouldn't notice Kemi Blanc, but she's doing the dirty work, taking away top defender. She had one really ugly turnover today, and she was slapping the ground about it.
That
But
was so tough. That was
Chloe
so tough.
Valet has been very good. Salome Rollet, or I don't even want to attempt to say how it's been said on air. But I do think the French need to use their women a bit more. I think if anyone's going to get called for a little bit of over dude balling, it's probably the French. Their FMPs are doing a great job on defensive matchups. They are being targets to shoot for on the transition or uh, on the offensive side of things, but I think that they should be a little bit more utilized to give them a chance, even against the Colombians, who obviously stack up well on the FMP side of things. Even in the game against Australia, where they dominated, looking down the stats, it is, Lison Bourneau had 3 stats, and that is the most for any FMP, where you've got multiple MMPs with 5, 7, 8, and more. So when you look at distribution, stats don't tell the whole story, but they tell a good part of it, and I think that's probably one thing where the French could stand to sharpen up, particularly to get through the Colombians.
I mean, Steph, I'm going to begin with reiterating what you've said about Ben Vignan. He has been probably the breakout star of the tournament, perhaps. I think that, maybe Diekman, maybe Paul Herkins have also in the conversation there. But wow, has Ben Vignan added a new dimension to the French offense. I don't think many people really expected him to be getting the amount of touches in the backfield he has been doing. He has been maybe the best hooker of the tournament. That OI backhand he soared down the entire pitch to Elliot Bornet today was ridiculous. And it's shots like that that are going to be super, super deadly against the Colombian team. I think, Steph, unfortunately, we may be in for more dude ball in that game. I think that with how scared the Colombians will have to be about the deep shots, that we may see them backing the male matching players, and then those be the main outlets for under shots as well. And something that the Colombians aren't a big fan of doing is sagging the lane, right? So that if a player is free deep, the shot's very likely to go. Colombians prefer to just really lock up in the reset space and trust players downfield. So, the kind of like Bonnet big skying performance, Lison Bourneau getting free in the end zone as well. These are routes to success for the French. I think the French, what's good for them is that they've got many ways they can score. They can play the big ball, they can play the small ball. I think on their downside is they seem a little streaky, Steph. I think they sometimes go into streaks of points where they just make the wrong decisions, where they make silly errors. They look, as they are like a young team, and 3-0 deficit at the start of yesterday before they come back for the win. And I think that there were some turns that could have been avoided in the game against Canada today.
They got broken on the very first point as well. They haven't had the strongest of starts, and as much as we say like they have been a little bit over dude ballish, a little bit, not ridiculously. Like it's not not horrible, but it's something they can sharpen up. Now they got to go against Colombia, where again we've talked about that could be a decent game plan against them. So they may want to put it away for one more game and just lean on what they've been doing to see if they can get past the Colombians, who we'll talk about next. Colombia got a wake-up call that they hated against Canada on day one. They were.
I've rarely seen a team, Steph, so upset and angry with themselves and their teammates in defeat. It was brutal, and like there were some points where they were. Yeah, they were jogging down and barely trying to continue to play defense, and you can understand it given the conditions and given that realistically, at a point the game was gone in the first game versus the Canadians. But they look. I mean, look, do we
That
think they
is
may be able to get by France? Yes, but can you see them beating the Canadians or the US with their with the men matchup? I just can't see it, Steph. I just can't see it this time round.
I think was so. Yes, their MMPs have been stated as their weakness for years, and going into this one again. Uh, However, that is a tale of two different teams that we've not seen in this tournament as far as one game to the next. Colombia's first game versus Colombia's second game has been the most marked improvement that I've seen from one game to the
Absolutely.
next, but both in terms of on-field efficiency, but also just their acceptance of that loss. They forgot it. They, like the way they took the field, dancing, coming in, like they had this energy, this vibe. For me, I was like, this is Colombia's game. Like just watching the warm up before the first pull, I had already okay. This is a whole new Colombia. Manu had the I don't know what you call a scarf or like a sweat rag around the shoulder. She was rat tailing, giving whiplash rat tails to her teammates in the butt and stuff. Like it was a very jovial kind of affair. They played their game. They established their game. They let the FMPs take charge, but they included everyone. The small ball took hold. I thought my boy from the Tokai Super Team, Jorge Buja, was awesome in this game. He did have 4 assists. Andreas Ramirez, 5 goals and 2 assists. Like you saw the MMPs take over almost on the stat sheet in this game. Meanwhile, the FMPs were doing the dirty work, so to speak, the hockey assists, the setup, the getting things moving, the initiating from static. A
And
whole
we
lot
must
of the
mention
creative
the player
throwing.
of the match as well, Jimena Montagna, who
Yeah,
came
Montagna
up
was
with a crazy
awesome.
poach block and got the bookends with the score as well. And it was a cool moment to see her awarded the player of the match and the little panda visor, Steph. That was awesome. And she had a great game, and a player who goes underappreciated sometimes. They're field matching players on the D line. I think Manji Ferrero had a brilliant game as well. I think there were
Yeah.
times where on the offensive side of the disc, they were just going backwards and backwards and backwards, and Monji would like slash horizontally up the stack and gain them back the 20 yards they had lost. So she was
Yeah.
awesome. Montano was awesome.
Ferrer
And we're
only
seeing
with
Mapa
one
Santos's
stat.
pulls
Yeah, Santos
towering.
been great. Ferrer was only one stat, but that layout catch she got from Buja up the line in the short
Oof.
space after Buja got kind of tackled by John O'Keefe on the sideline. But that kind of summed up Ferrero's injection into the game, how much she'd been doing, throwing the body around for all the hard yards, and then made it pay off in the end zone that one time. It was a bit of a microcosm of her
She's
game.
clutch, is what I would say.
Clutch.
She's clutch.
Yeah. So I will not count the Colombians out. I will not count them as favorites against, they will likely have to go. They will have to go against the USA if they can get through France. They will not be favorites against the USA. But do I think it's an unwinnable game? No chance will I say that. I think again, the difference from game 1 to game 2 is substantial. And if they, I don't think they can expect that big of a step into game 3, but if they can maintain that level and build on it, they can string together the right game to beat anyone. I do think that is possible. They have to have a near perfect game. Anyone
I mean,
has to have a
Steph,
near
I thought
perfect
that
game to beat the US.
in the last World Games, I think they had the best offense in the tournament. They got turned the fewest times. They had the highest hold percentage in the previous tournament. You were saying they only had 1 turnover today. Something about that game, if we see Colombia get through the French and they play the States, if there is north of, say, 12 turnovers in that game, I'm almost certain it will be a US victory. The path to the Colombian victory is a super clean, super low turnover, low wind game, 8 turnovers or fewer. We just kind of like ride the steam of the offense all the way through the game. Hopefully there's some loose throws that are slightly too aggressive from the Americans, but I think we've seen Rafi Hayes take on a bit too much throwing risk. Claire Chastain do the same. Kayla got absolutely bailed out when in a flick huck she was thrown earlier. So there's some like looseness. Dylan Freechild is thrown away too as well. So there's some looseness in the Americans' offense. You know, I actually think that at times the Americans are going a little fast, and that's like not the most Hive ultimate take I've ever said, but like with how frequently they get quite free, I think that there's times where I'm just like, whoa, guys, like you're America, right? Remember that you can like slow down here and really make sure of these passes. If they give up the disc too much to the Colombians, it could like they have the offensive talent to get through.
Fair assessment there, Noah. We will see. I think you're right. They got to play as tidy as they did today. One turnover against the Australians. That will be a much bigger task against both the French and if that goes their way, the U.S. But that is the style of game that they need to be trying to re-emulate. So what do we got from Sam Murphy in the chat? Well, how did France stop the Colombian women? Sam Murphy, great hearing you. I mean, a whole lot of Camille Blanc is step one, but
Yeah.
I mean, what are the matchups there? Like Zoe Forget's been playing defense a little bit. So you've had Camille Blanc on the defensive side of the ball. I think I've seen Chloe Olivier on the defensive side. Those are tough matchups. Like, I think I put Camille Blanc probably. You would normally put her on an upfield player, but I think I just put her on the best player, and I would put Camille on Valeria is the likely best matchup in my mind. It is tough to say. Like, is it something that is tactical here that they've got to do? Is it something that they've got to do just as far on their matchups? France has been playing a little bit of lag, but mostly player to player match defense. A little, I think they go a little bit for FM, but they've mostly been playing like honest one-way force defense, lagging the lanes, chasing the pulls. I would try and gum it up a bit more against the Colombians. I would maybe try and play a little bit more switchy and have a bit more liberty, but I would really focus on your starting matchups, assess them after every 2 points played, and if the Colombian women are getting free, that they gotta, give different looks and change it up. I'm not sure. I didn't put too much thought, but that's me thinking on my feet. Noah, you got any perspective on how the French Fumps can gum up the Colombian dominance?
It does seem that there's a bit of a problem, Steph, because most of the French defensive talent seems to be on the kind of more downfield cutter type of thing. We've got Camille and Zoe Forget, and I think Forget's talent, right, is the deep ball and just being able to win that battle every time with a player who wants to go deep. And Camille Blanc, it's that players who make big long cuts. If they make a long cut, that she is going to be faster, going to get up the inside and get a block. But that's not the Colombians' game plan. They're going to play little small passes. The wins that they need, right, are times where there's a Colombian FMP on the break side in the sort of dump position, and instead of penetrating it and getting to the open side, hooking underneath and getting a small dish, if they start clearing off to the break side, leaving the thrower isolated, that's a position where the French could be in a really nice spot there. You saw there were a couple turns where the two closest players to the three closest players to the disc, aside from the thrower, were Canadians in the opening game. I remember the one where Valeria overthrows Bouya slightly. It was the shot to take. It was still 7, but that was the only shot she had because Maliko Samar and I believe Gagan Chatha were halting the stack at the front, so they were gumming up the stack as you were talking about, Steph. And I think that, like, if you make sure there's some MMP presence in the underspace, in the handler space, it can dissuade the FMPs from getting too involved because they're worried about poach Ds as they should. Like it's a big threat to the style they're playing. But yeah, I think that it's likely they're gonna have to get a little smart there, Steph, with
I
with
think
how
one
they deal
other
with those
thing I could
matchups.
consider, I like that, Noah, very much. One other thing I can consider, knowing or assuming that France might do okay offensively, playing the bigger game, playing a bit of dude ball, maybe swapping Lison Bourneau for Zoe Forget, put Zoe Forget upfield in a
I like that.
receiving space, and you put like Lison Bourneau is probably the best suited to stick to Cardenas or Cartagena to play in the tight space. So perhaps that is that's something I would consider. Like I just had a quick look at the rosters again, see who's doing who's then you got Camille, Chloe, and Lison as your primary three defenders. I think you increase your value there. Again, not having Tiff Lachi and understanding, I think Lison's going to have to play a lot both ways anyways. But that would be my primary swap over as far as personnel from line to line goes to combat that.
I love that look. I think that the other way that they get turns is trying and drag the game into the mud early, huck early, and just kind of hope that, Steph, you did this in the super team match versus the USA. Sometimes if you turn with the long shot, and it just makes the scrappy points can turn into scrappy games. I think that if possessions go long, that the French have the advantage. So I really think that they should be shooting early, hit some Benvignan deep shots, and put the Colombians under pressure.
Yeah, that sounds good. We are at an hour. We'll go another 5 minutes. We're gonna avoid the break today. No commercial break. Those of you out there, sponsors, make sure you get in our ear, and we will take these breaks for you. But we'd love to hear from you. I'll be in your inboxes soon to try and be the squeaky wheel, getting the grease. But great World Games wrap up. 4 Nations. Did you get to see any of the 4 Nations Ultimate happening up in Glasgow or just outside of Glasgow last weekend?
I watched a good chunk of it. I didn't catch loads of the pool player games. I catched a nice chunk of the 3-4, and I watched the whole final. It was a little bit unexpected, Steph. There was some lovely, sunny Glasgow weather. It was windy out there. There was hail at times. On the production there, we had a different production company working and pushing their stream onto the ULTI.TV platform, which we absolutely love to see. Super great new tournament that we have from the 4 Nations. It'll be interesting to see it come back. Maybe add the 2 more nations that are classically featured in the 6 Nations competition, or maybe more European teams might want to get involved in this stuff. But I gave you the power rankings last week, and I said that it was England from at the top, and then Ireland, then Scotland, then Wales. But that was not how it worked out, was it?
No, not at all. England get the win in the end, so you get that part right. They beat Wales in the final. And Scotland ended up beating Ireland. Ireland with the wooden spoon there. We may have a highlight here from the tournament. What do we got here, Grabco?
Wales had put in a great performance all the way through the tournament, and we see a bit of their talent here. This is early in the game. Shot goes up to Tom Lees. Conor Mickael on the chase, and he makes a big bid but can't quite get there. Tom Lees, I think, had a fantastic game. He is a player for Smog, and Conor just cannot quite get there with the bid. We've got one more angle to show just how close he is.
Woo! Love that play. Love the score. I do love that defensive bid just the same. Conor leaving it out there for the country. Now, format wise, this tournament was the venue, beautiful. That place looked incredible. It
Yeah, it was
screamed
wonderful.
Scotland to me. The flag in the picture almost the whole time. The small, quaint grandstand still though, like it was a proper grandstand, framed itself really well. Format, not my favorite. The short games made it really tough. Like score lines, here we go: Scotland, Ireland 6-7, England, Wales 7-7, Scotland, England 7-8, Ireland, Wales 5-7, Scotland, Wales 9-5. The last game we finally got a double-digit score, 11-6, and that's pool play. 40-minute games are too short.
Yep.
But the weirdest thing is the AUDL UFA style instant finish, buzzer finish in a short game. You're playing a 7-6 game with the team that's behind with disc in hand and still like a buzzer shot, or a team waiting to pull and the buzzer, they're waiting to receive so they can have a chance, and the buzzer goes in that in between points phases. I hope that they can go back, look at that, and adjust. Start it earlier. Have a whole day. Give yourself those gaps in between. And then also the weird part as well, the bronze medal and the final were 70-minute games, so almost double the length. Not just adding a little bit. Like, put those 5 minutes on every other game so that these games mean a bit more. And teams
take it off the bronze for sure. Like, the bronze did not need to be 70 minutes.
Yeah. So a couple little things that I would have changed, but a great initiative. I love to see it. I think it was an impressive first-time tournament to have a great new edition. I hope we see it year after year. I hope we're able to bring it to you year after year. But yeah, that's it. England are the champions of the 4 Nations, Noah.
Boo. Boo.
Wait, aren't you English?
I am, but even the English were booing themselves and while scoring those point stuff. And I think we all I like even English people like an
evil
upset.
empire, of course, as far as the UK or GB go, or any way you divide up that series of nations that get to compete as one at most Olympics and World Championships. That still baffles my mind. But we're not going to get into those kind of political discussions here. We're just talking the ultimate side of things, Noah, and I think we've done a pretty good job of that today. We are just about 10 minutes over, but any last words before we let the people go? We'll be back next week, of course, with more World Games to be the primary topic.
Steph, who's going to win the World Games?
It's going to be a rematch of today's game. USA will beat Germany in a slightly closer game. What do you think?
Closer? Could it get much closer?
Slightly further apart, sorry. Like 2-point margin is what I believe. You got something different? You've been talking Canada. Will you stick with them?
I will. US-Canada final. US convincing win. I think that the stylistic matchup is terrible for Canada. Like, it's they just play the same game, but like not in quite as strong a way as the US. I think that despite being the second best team, I would rather it be Germany in the final, or perhaps Colombia to knock them off in the semi, or maybe France to knock them off in the semi. Who knows? Who knows?
Lots to still be played, and we will keep our finger on the pulse so that we can relay that info back to you. All of that will be next week and every Wednesday live on Shot for Goal. For Mr. Brinkworth, Noah Brinkworth, I've been Stefan Rapazzo. Thanks so much for joining us, and hang on, Crabco on the ones and twos in the background. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll catch y'all next time.